Hello everyone. I wanted to provide another set of trigger warnings for this case. This is case number 4 of the second game. And I want to trigger warn, please, for suicide, including pictures. There is a picture of the crime scene that keeps being shown. And I also want to trigger warn for one of the witnesses is mentally ill and at one point almost died by suicide, and there is a lot of stigma surrounding that. So I don't really know whether to recommend watching this case if those are triggers for you, but you will know better than I will what you can and can't watch, and so I wanted to sort of put a warning down before all of these videos for case 4. So I'm recording this warning, and I will prepend it to the videos. So trigger warnings for suicide, for mental illness stigma, and the suicide includes photos of the scene. So thank you very much, and now we will go into the video. Bye-bye.
Hello everyone, welcome to another Let's Play of Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney. My name is Anna Mardall. So I went away and had a sleep and a think and some food, and I've decided. Oh, okay, so back up. The tricky thing with Edgeworth is trying to figure out how smart he is. And I think that's the hard thing with trying to figure out his motivation, because if they make him too smart, and they very clearly want him to be smart. You can tell that the writers, were very much pro Edgeworth at this point in the game, if not way earlier. If they make Edgeworth too smart, then he looks corrupt for prosecuting innocent people who are clearly innocent and haven't done anything wrong. If you just think about it for a second, if you make him too smart, then now it's like, the only reason he would prosecute this case is if he's corrupt, though, because why else would he prosecute this totally innocent guy? If you make him not smart enough, then you can't really have him doing these convoluted, I knew all along types of things where he totally knew what he was doing and set up traps and all sorts of other things. So it's kind of tricky, I think, with Edgeworth, how smart they want him to be or not be. And I have to decide over here where we're trying to figure out what is he doing. I have to decide how smart I think he is. I have decided. So here's the thing. Edgeworth was involved in this case tangentially, and then the morning of, the prosecutor, Franziska, is shot. Which, I mean, okay, she may have upset some people. She's a ruthless prosecutor that's put a lot of people in prison. But still, the timing is very interesting when right before this celebrity case goes to trial. So let's assume that Edgeworth noticed that and realized something was going on and someone was trying to manipulate the outcome of the case. Let's also assume that that Gumshoe did tell Edgeworth that Maya has been kidnapped, because I really have a very hard time believing that Gumshoe would keep that from Edgeworth. Gumshoe trusts him so much and trusts his what's the word I'm looking for? Judgment and looks up to him. I feel like Gumshoe would tell Edgeworth that Maya had been kidnapped. So let's assume that Edgeworth knows Maya has been kidnapped and knows Franziska was shot. So he's put together 2 and 2 that somebody's trying to manipulate this case, both by forcing Phoenix Wright to take the case and trying to prevent
the best prosecutor in the area from prosecuting it.
So let us therefore assume that Edgeworth is trying to play out and run down the clock in court, kind of like a like a speed scenario where you can't slow the car down or stop, because if you do, then the hostages all die. And let's also assume that Edgeworth believes Phoenix understands what he's doing, or hopes that Phoenix will understand what he's doing, and hopes that we're playing together, like we're gonna pretend to fight each other for the audience so that they don't know that we're onto them, and that the goal here is to run out the clock while Gumshoe looks for Maya. That's my that's my theory that I'm going with. Do I think that's actually going to happen in game? I think there's a good chance of that, because they do like having Edgeworth, swoop in and save the day. So I give it 50-50 odds on actually happening, but that's what I'm going to pretend is going on. So with all that to say, in the trial yesterday, we proved that it couldn't be our client who shot, who strangled and stabbed Juan Carita. Now, normally I would be super upset that we can't just get the judge to declare him not guilty, but Edgeworth insisted that we continue the trial. I'm going to assume that Edgeworth insisted that not because he doesn't care about justice and he's still trying to railroad a man that he now knows must be innocent, but because he's afraid that if the trial is concluded, the person who's holding Maya as leverage against Phoenix may kill her so that she can't serve as a witness against... You don't know the kidnapper will keep his word and return Maya. Once she stops being useful, he may kill her. So I'm going to assume that Miles is insisting on the court case continuing, not because he's still trying to convict someone that someone as smart as Edgeworth should see is not the killer, but Edgeworth has to pretend that he thinks he's still the killer, or that he's still trying to convict him, in order to keep the trial going, in order to keep Maya useful, in order to keep her alive until the cops can find her. That's how I'm choosing to interpret his actions, because I feel like Miles is intelligent enough to realize that our client isn't the person in the photo that we showed, and I feel like Miles is supposed to be morally upstanding enough to not continue to press a case against an innocent person. So the fact that he's continuing to press the case suggests that he's doing it in order to stall for time so that Maya isn't killed. That's my hope. We'll see. We'll get there, and you can all laugh at me when it turns out I was terribly, terribly wrong. So here we are at 2:14 p.m. And remember, the kidnapper said we only have we have to get an acquittal today, which is kind of weird, because why does it need to be today is the part that I'm not fully understanding. There has to be a reason besides just the kidnapper is impatient, but I don't know it yet. So, okay, this is on guard. Dude, I can't believe that Adrian. No way. Not cool and collected Adrian Andrews. She is your manager. It would have been very easy for her to pull this off. The only person who had easy access to the knife you used at dinner was her. So, after the ceremony, during the break, huh? I was sleeping like a log the entire time. She could have easily planted that blood-covered button in your hakama. Because she was the one that came to wake me up? Then, dude, you're saying it really was her? Yes, she is the real killer. She is the one who murdered Juan Carita. Now, I don't believe that, but I don't have anything to base it on except I just don't get that vibe from her. Phoenix isn't wrong that the evidence points more strongly to her than it does to Matt. So I'm not sure what's gonna happen there. But why? I thought she was buds with Juan. She has her own agenda. Her own agenda? What are you talking about? I'm sure you'll see by the time this trial is over. It'll be alright. I'll get you acquitted by the end of today. Get me a verdict that's refreshing like a spring breeze, okay, Mr. Lawyer Dude? Baby. Phoenix, you think her motive is related to Celeste Impact's missing suicide note, right? Yes. Miss Andrews depended on Miss Impacts as her strength and reason to live. But then Miss Impacts suddenly killed herself. It sounds like she left a suicide note, and the person thought to have hidden it is Juan Carita, the victim of this murder. And that's why I think Miss Andrews got close to Mr. Carita, all to get the suicide note back. That sounds plausible, but one thing bothers me. Oh, what? Who was it that first told us about the relationship? Better stated, Miss Andrews' dependency issues with regards to Miss Impacts. It was Edgeworth. It looks like he's still the one in command of this ship. Don't let your guard down yet.
You'd think if he was working with us, that Mia would notice that too. Has she ever gone up against Edgeworth in court? She must have. Did he have a perfect record when we met him, or was it just that he was up and coming and kind of a star? But it makes you wonder whether she knew anything about him before we met him, and if she has any insight into his character. I don't know if she does or not. I'm not sure.
Anyway, back in court, there is much mumbles.
Court will now reconvene. Now then, Mr. Edgeworth, if you please. The prosecution calls the witness subpoenaed by this court, Miss Adrian Andrews, the person who discovered the crime in Mr. Juan Carita's room.
She's playing with the card?
Oh, you know what else I guess we're probably supposed to suspect her is that she's got a copy of the card that Maya found on the floor where she's been kidnapped. But I don't know what that connection is supposed to be. Ow. Shit. Boy, when you went down, you just kicked, don't you? He wants cuddles, and then he does not want cuddles anymore at all, ever again. Very classic cat. But yeah, I don't know what the significance of that card is supposed to be.
What is your occupation?
I am the manager of the defendant in this case, Mr. Matt on guard.
I see. Now then.
Before we begin, Your Honor, I have one request.
Yes, sure. What is it?
I'm sure everyone in this room is wondering the same thing, and would love to find out more about my relationship with the victim. After all, it was the topic of a certain weekly magazine recently.
No, I have no idea what you mean. I've never even heard of Gossip Land. If the judge was ever a prosecution witness, he'd do all my work for me. Anyway, I was wondering if you could please tell us about your relation to the victim.
Yes, I was seeing Mr. Carita. I was also aware of the rivalry that existed between Matt and Juan. But this was a private matter between Juan and myself.
So it was a fry and bait matter, or was that bait and fry? It reminds me of fishing.
I didn't kill him.
No one is accusing you of that.
I think there's someone who would beg to differ.
I love her. I think we all understand your relationship with the victim now, Miss Andrews. Very well then. Witness, please testify to the court about what happened when you discovered the murder that had taken place.
It was time for the show to start, so I went to get Matt from his room. After that, I went to Juan's room, and there was his dead body. I was in shock. What I saw was, naturally, the exact same scene as in the crime scene photo. I felt as though I was about to faint, so I poured myself a glass of juice.
You poured yourself a glass of juice?
Yes. Sadly, I didn't remember not to touch things at the scene of a crime. And I disturbed the crime scene by moving this one thing.
And that is when the fingerprints on the wine glass were made, Your Honor. I see. Well, Mr. Wright, you may cross-examine the witness.
Phoenix. She is one cool and collected customer, and she has the brains to match. Yes, I know. In order to catch a person like her, you have to avoid head-on confrontations. You should disrupt her pacing. Disrupt her pacing? She's the type of woman who is easily thrown off by things inconsistent with her thinking, so you have to attack when she least expects it. The instant you let up on your offense is the instant this trial is over. Understand?
I'm not sure I understand, but we'll figure something out.
Nobody said I couldn't press. You went to get Matt from his room? After that, I went to Juan's room. He said he was asleep and that you came in after Juan was dead.
And what was Mr. Unger doing at the time?
He was taking a nap. He was worn out from his mini performance as the Nickel Samurai during the ceremony. Mr. Unger did say he was taking a nap. Then I guess you could say it could not have been taken out of his room. What? It's it. Excuse me? It? What are you?
Right. I thought years of school would have taught you how to construct a sentence. If you can't make a sensible sentence with a subject, I'll make one for you. Watch. Did you, Miss Andrews, remove Mr. Ongard's knife from his room?
No.
Subject, verb, object, right. Did you skip basic grammar? The witness may continue.
After that, I went to Juan's room. Why did you do that? As a friendly gesture, Juan was to make an appearance with the other heroes. So the show was supposed to be a show of friendship. I should back off. As long as I don't have any proof, she's not going to talk.
Witness, may we continue now? What did you see when you got to his room?
There was his dead body. I was in shock. You were in shock. What? Was I not supposed to be? Miss Andrews is a very calculating person. Despite how close they were, I doubt she had romantic feelings for Mr. Kurita.
Anyone randomly stumbling upon a dead body would be in shock. You can't seriously expect that a young beauty like her would not be shocked.
Miles...
Somehow, I don't think beauty has anything to do with being shocked or not. I see.
What I saw was, naturally, the exact same scene as in the crime scene photo. This is the photo you're referring to, correct? It's not the exact same scene, because the one with the knife lodged in his chest.
And the guitar case was like this too.
Yes, it was open and empty, of course.
Then what did you do next?
It felt as though I was about to faint, so I poured myself a glass of juice.
You didn't drink it though.
Juice. Yes, there was a bottle of tomato juice on the table, so I helped myself.
You didn't drink any of it, did you?
Huh?
There were no lip marks left on this wine glass to suggest that anyone drank from it.
I wasn't feeling terribly great, so I set the glass down without drinking it. Miss Andrews, I would like to confirm with you one more time. When you discovered the dead body of Juan Crida, you were in great shock. That's when you poured yourself the glass of juice, correct? And what of it? My mind really was a complete blank at the time.
Your mind was a complete blank.
I didn't think that was possible for you. Aren't you rude today? I was so dazed that I made one careless mistake. That one thing.
What one thing?
Never mind. It's no big deal. What was she starting to say just now?
Miss Andrews, I'm convinced that, as you said, you made a mistake at the scene of the crime. What I really want to know is what this mistake was. Actually, so would I.
I'm sorry. It's kind of embarrassing. When I set the glass down on the dresser, I accidentally knocked the flower vase over.
Interesting. Flower vase? Are you talking about the one on the floor in the crime photo? This mess of glass shards.
It was originally on top of the dresser, but when I bumped into it with my elbow, it fell onto the guitar case.
Why did you withhold such an important piece of information?
He didn't expect that. I'm sorry. I thought that since the crime scene was already in disarray, people would simply assume the vase was just another part of the mess.
It looks like yet another fact has come to light here. Please add this and anything else you have to reveal to your testimony.
I'm sorry, but I have nothing more to add. I didn't touch anything else.
He doesn't believe her.
I don't believe her either. The guitar case was open, she said, but the water's only on top of the lid. It must have been closed. She knocked water onto it, and then she opened it. Why? To see if she ruined the guitar? But why would she care? There's a dead body. Objection! You testified that you knocked the flower vase over. Is this correct? Yes. Are you sure it fell onto the guitar case? Is there some problem with what I said?
It's not some problem. It's a major problem. It's true that the top of the guitar case was wet with water. However, that's exactly what is so strange. Miss Andrews, you testified that the vase fell onto the guitar case. However, if that was true, the case should have gotten wet on the inside, not the outside. That's very true. Furthermore, there is one other strange thing about this guitar case. What is that? Let's take another look at the crime scene photo. The remains of the vase are scattered on the floor. What is wrong with that? If the guitar case was open when the vase fell, the glass shards should be inside, not outside the case.
Ah!
What is your point, Wright? that the case was closed at the time the vase was knocked over.
Yes.
Is that all?
No. Think back to what Miss Andrews testified to. She said that other than the vase, she didn't touch anything else.
Yes, that's right. She did implicitly say she didn't touch the guitar case. But this whole matter with the guitar case is a dead end. The bright red guitar was found at the studio. It has no bearing on this case at all.
That may very well be. However, the empty guitar case does seem to have no relation to this case, doesn't it?
It seems that there is no deeper meaning to the guitar case. Well, Mr. Wright, do you think we need to hear more details about the guitar case?
Yes? The empty guitar case. I believe this is a crucial piece of the puzzle.
I can't believe anyone would reach for straws like this. But it is you.
I can't believe I'm doing this either. There could have been something else in it. Just because the guitar was at the studio doesn't mean he didn't bring anything in it.
All right, I'll follow along for now. Miss Andrews, please testify to the court about the guitar case.
Yes, Your Honor. I don't remember too clearly, because I was a bit dazed. I suppose I must have opened the guitar case after I knocked the vase over. It's not a big deal though, right? The case was empty after all. As for why I opened the case, even I don't know.
It looks like this really wasn't a very important point. This wastefulness is such a familiar feeling by now that it's almost comforting.
You missed me, just admit it. Anyway, I'll go ahead and start the cross-examination.
Using anyway to change the topic. A convenient escape for a weak man.
She admits to touching the case, but it says it bears Carita's prints. There is no way you were the one who opened the guitar case. Why would you say that? It's elementary, my dear. The only fingerprints on this guitar case are those of the victim. Did she have someone with her?
What is it, Miss Andrews?
You shouldn't assume that I must have left prints just because I touched the case.
What do you mean?
What if I were to tell you that I was wearing gloves at the time?
Gloves? Why would you be wearing gloves at the time?
It was the night of the awards ceremony. Of course I dressed up for the occasion. Yes, now I remember. I'm almost sure I was wearing a pair of thin gloves.
I see. Well, Mr. Wright, it seems the witness was wearing gloves at the scene of the crime.
Bullshit!
You were wearing gloves.
Isn't that a little strange? Why is that strange? Do you have something that would prove I was not wearing gloves at the time? Yeah, I have the wine glass that has your fingerprints on it. I have your proof right here. This wine glass. The wine glass?
You left your fingerprints very clearly on this wine glass.
Even if you took your gloves off when you poured yourself this glass of juice,
wouldn't you think it was just a little strange that you put your gloves back on just to open the guitar case?
Her glasses broke and she had extras! That's awesome! She had an extra pair right ready to slip back on.
Order! Order!
Looks like you hit the nail on the head this time.
What do you mean?
I believe that guitar case plays a very important role here.
But it's just an empty case.
I wonder if it really was empty, though.
The guitar. The bright red guitar was at the studio.
Phoenix, drop all of your presumptions. What was in the guitar case was not a bright red guitar.
You don't mean it was a bright white guitar?
No, that's not right either.
I admit it would be unnatural for someone to do that. So the witness was not wearing gloves, despite the fact that on the case...
Objection!
Your Honor, this is obviously the defense's usual misdirection tactic at work. Steer the court towards an unrelated topic and lull us all into his misguided...
No, Your Honor, please recall that Miss Andrews testified that the vase fell onto the guitar case, which means that the case was closed when the crime took place. However, it is wide open in this photo of the crime scene. I am sure this guitar case has some relation to the murder.
Objection!
If you are so sure, Wright, then I'm sure you can somehow substantiate your outrageous claim, correct? Please enlighten us as to why that guitar case has anything at all to do with this murder. Ugh.
Shit. Anything could have been in it, we don't know.
Can you do that, Mr. Wright?
Well,
Let's suppose for a second. The bright red guitar was not the only thing that could have been in the case. The bright red guitar not the only thing? You don't mean to suggest that a bright black guitar... You intend to push your theory that the case was not empty. Is that it, Wright? I wouldn't say something I didn't intend to prove. Deflate that head of yours. You haven't proven anything yet. Now then, let's have it. What was inside this case at the time of the murder?
okay. Let's walk through the crime. Andrews went to Matt. He was sleeping. He was sleeping in his full costume. He said that too. And he had to sleep in his full costume. He was about to go back on in 30 minutes. And it takes hours to get in and out of those clothes. The fancy costume, any fancy costume, it doesn't matter if we're talking Star Trek, Lord of the Rings, Nickel Samurai, it takes a long time to get in and out of a proper good costume and to have it all perfectly. He didn't change, he was sleeping in his costume. She went to Juan. She went to Juan dressed as the Nickel Samurai because Lotta took a picture of her, a short woman in the Nickel Samurai costume. So what, she undressed Matt without him waking up, put on the clothes, and then later redressed him? That's just not... I don't believe that could have happened. And she claims she wore gloves when she handled the guitar case. But she poured herself a glass of juice. She took off her gloves to pour herself a glass of juice. She went there and killed him. Her lie is probably close to the truth because it's easier to just change a little bit than to change a lot. I do not believe she could have undressed Matt and then redressed him. So this has to be a spare costume. They would have had spare costumes. You don't just have one copy of the headliner's costume. They would have had lots of spare costumes. So she stole a spare costume and wore it to Juan's room. And wait, is this going to Juan's room or away from Juan's room? That's actually away from the room because it's the teddy bears. The teddy bear's in the picture and he was the one that had all the bears in the... So this is coming out of his room. Okay, fine. So she went in and she went out. She wore gloves to handle the guitar case. And she took the glove off to pour herself some juice. What if she carried the costume in with her, poured herself juice? She said she poured it in a state of shock at seeing the dead body. So she goes in there and goes, oh, he's dead! Pours herself a glass of juice and then decides she's gonna wear a nickel samurai costume to leave so nobody can pin the... But she had to take the knife with her to... She took the knife with her to go frame Matt. So she's walking in with a fucking briefcase of knife, samurai costume. But where's the briefcase now? She's not holding it. What if she walked in with a guitar case? Then she could just leave the guitar case behind. What if she walked in with a guitar case full of murder weapon and outfit? She could leave the guitar case behind. She could stab the dead guy with the knife, put on the suit, and make sure there was witnesses when she left the room, and frame Ungard that way. I don't think she killed the guy. I think she did help frame Matt.
Take that!
This is a photograph. Yes, but what is important is what is in this picture, Your Honor. In this picture? It doesn't take a genius to see what I mean. What I'm proposing is... Inside the guitar case was the Nickel Samurai, the hero's very own costume. What? Mr. Wright, explain yourself. Right, are you saying the witness opened the guitar case to take out a costume? What insane point would there be to doing something like that? That insane point would be to wear the costume, of course. Miss Andrews put it on to hide her identity so she could make her escape. After all, you couldn't let anyone see you leave, could you, Miss Andrews? I refuse to accept your theory.
He looks pretty surprised.
Do you have anything to support such a preposterous idea? Just outside the door was an investigative photographer who was starving for a big scoop. And in the end, she managed to get this shot, correct? You mean this photo? Order! It looks like we've wandered into quite another mess again, haven't we?
Nice job, Phoenix. Well, you know my strategy. Speak first, think later.
So the real murderer was hiding inside a costume. Wait 1 second, Your Honor. The Nickel Samurai's costume would have been Mr. Matt on guards. Why would something of the defendant's be in the victim's room, and inside the guitar case of all places? True, that is a little baffling. Mr. Wright, the court would like to hear your thoughts. What was the Nickel Samurai costume doing inside the guitar case?
It was a spare.
Mr. Ongar did not take his costume off during the break period. In that case, the costume we are talking about was a spare one.
What? Then, are you saying that on the night of the murder, there were 2 Nickel Samurai costumes at the Gatewater Hotel?
Yes! That is what I'm saying!
How do you explain the costume that was inside the guitar case? It would mean that the victim itself had brought this spare to the ceremony on purpose.
Or the manager, who apparently was managing for both of them off and on, knew. She was dating the guy, she knew he had a guitar.
But why? The victim, Mr. Kurita, was the Jammin' Ninja. Why would he secretly bring the Nickel Samurai's spare costume with him? What could be the reason behind such a peculiar act?
Therein lies the sticking point.
What are you mumbling to yourself about now? Have you just been rambling all this time, without any sense of inner monologue?
Huh?
No, I just... Mr. Wright, please explain yourself. Why do you think the victim had the Nickel Samurai's spare costume?
Phoenix, are you sure you can explain this one? Think carefully before you answer, and then answer with gusto. I believe in you. Alright, this is what I think. The reason the victim brought the Nickel Samurai's spare costume to the hotel was... I thought Andrews brought it.
Okay. So... change of theories. Kurita brought it. Why would Kurita bring it? I thought Andrews brought it so that she could frame Matt. Kurita was not planning to die, so he wouldn't have brought it to frame Matt for his own murder. But he would have wanted to frame Matt for something, because why else do you take your rival's costume with you? So he wanted to pretend to be Matt. After the ceremony... What came after the ceremony? After the ceremony was that post-ceremony show. And they kept banging on about how the Nickel Samurai was going to confess something. The Nickel Samurai was going to confess something. And Matt didn't know anything about it. He didn't even know what we were talking about. Which didn't make any sense. Andrews acted vague when we asked her, which also didn't make any sense because it doesn't fit her character. So Andrews was in on it somehow. But if the plan wasn't to shove Matt up on stage and hiss, "Confess!" then somebody else would have had to gone up in his garb to confess what? To confess to hurting the woman who committed suicide? That post. Okay. He was gonna do something.
What is this?
On the night of the murder, after the stage show, the Nickel Samurai was going to hold a special press conference.
A press conference?
Yes, the Nickel Samurai was supposed to confess something at this conference.
I heard about this as well. For once, you're not making something up right.
I never make anything up, baby. What struck me as strange was that Mr. Ongard himself said he had no idea he was supposed to be holding a press conference that night. I don't like that face she's making.
How can that be?
The way I see it, that can mean only one thing. The conference was set up by none other than the victim, Mr. Juan Kurita himself.
The victim?
Yes, the spare Nickel Samurai costume was prepared for that very conference. Mr. Kurita was going to hold the press conference as the Nickel Samurai.
He was going to dress up as the Nickel Samurai and hold a conference? Why would the victim do such a thing?
That's something I don't quite know yet. However, what I am concerned with right now is what he intended to reveal at that conference.
The Nickel Samurai was going to confess something. And by confess, I'd wager he was going to reveal something about himself.
Which means that Juan Kurita, posing as the Nickel Samurai, was going to speak about Matt Ongard.
Yes, I guess that is what that would mean. If that's the case, that's not a confession. That's public disclosure.
Yes, we agree he lied, honey. Like the fancy anime screen.
He told a falsehood.
Yes. Yes, sweetheart. Thank you for joining us.
I really do want to see Kid Miles in like an offshoot. I think he'd just be this most serious little kid. Miss Andrews?
I can see why you were pros at what you do.
Pardon me?
Yes, just as you say. The press conference was set up by Juan.
Miss Andrews, please offer us an explanation for this.
I was the one he asked to help set it up. And the person who prepared the second costume for him. That was also me.
You?
Juan had bet everything on the Jammin' Ninja this year. And if he lost the Grand Prix, he was going to make sure Matt was going down with him. That's what he thought anyway.
He was going to ruin him, huh?
It looked like somehow Juan had in his hands a secret so powerful that it would destroy Matt's acting career had it been revealed.
What? Do you know what the secret of Mr. Ongard's is, Miss Andrews?
That's something only Juan knew. I don't know what it is.
I see.
I've probably been coming off quite suspicious to everyone. That's to be expected. I've been trying to protect Matt, after all.
Protect Mr. Ongard. And yet again, another strange bit of truth comes to light, it seems. Miss Andrews, if you could, please tell us the truth about your behavior.
Yes, Your Honor. I understand.
I don't trust this.
From the moment I saw the crime scene, I had a feeling that Matt was the murderer.
Really?
Matt had to kill Juan no matter what. He didn't have an alibi for what he was doing at the time of the murder. My thoughts were confirmed by the evidence, of course, the button and the knife. But I'm Matt's manager, so I felt I had to protect him.
Really? This does account for everything.
Well, I am the logical type. We're finally seeing her true self. She is more nervous than a scared rabbit.
If the defense can find no fault with his testimony, I am ready to make a ruling. Please keep that in mind as you cross-examine, Mr. Wright.
Everything has swung to the opposite side of the scale again. This just means I have to put my weight into this and turn her logic upside down. Like this, her saying, yeah, it was totally Matt. I know it looks like I was framing Matt, but actually I had a feeling it was Matt.
Oh, okay, well that makes sense.
You had a feeling.
Hold it!
Would you say that was your intuition speaking to you? Don't confuse my methods of reasoning with your own. If you want to prove that someone did something, you need three things. Three things. A motive, an opportunity to commit the crime, and finally, decisive evidence. If you think these three things through, the answer becomes quite clear. You should have already known that, Phoenix.
They didn't teach that test in school, at least not from what I remember.
I continue now. Why? He didn't even know about the press conference. Would you say this need came from the press conference? Yes. Do you know why Juan chose that event in that hotel for the conference? That was when he could cause the most damage to the public's beloved Matt Engard.
And you knew of this plan, didn't you, Miss Andrews?
Yes, because I was the one who set up the conference and prepared the costume.
But I'm sure Mr. Engard himself didn't know anything about the press conference.
Oh, really? Can you show me any proof he didn't know about the press conference?
The important thing here is that this information was not in your testimony. I agree. Miss Andrews, please correct your testimony if you please.
Grasping at straws, are we, Mr. Wright? Didn't you already testify earlier that Mr. Engard was taking a nap in his room? Are you telling me now that too was a lie, so you could cover for Mr. Engard? I'm not telling you anything of the sort. When I went to get him for the show, he honestly was sleeping. However, as to whether he was sleeping the entire time, that I cannot say. I was too busy setting up the stage at the time.
I keep trying, but I find no flaws with what Miss Andrews says. I can't say the same for some people here in the courtroom.
The judge is glaring straight at me. He's glaring at you, smart guy. You can hardly call the knife decisive evidence. The fingerprints on the knife could very well be a clever camouflage. Then what about the button? The button. It's clear from the crime scene that the victim and his murderer fought. And during the fight, the killer ripped the button from the Jammin' Ninja's costume.
You're talking about this button, correct?
That button was found in the pleats of Matt's Hakama, isn't that correct? I would think that makes it very decisive evidence. No, it wouldn't have been bloodied until the knife was... The knife was stabbed in him post-mortem, after the button came off. The knife doesn't prove a thing. Fix your testimony. I can't stand the sight of a man who can't gracefully accept his defeat.
Miss Andrews, for Mr. Wright's sake, please add this information to your testimony.
No, absolutely not. The button was torn off of Juan during his fight with Matt. Absolutely not. Fuck you. Fuck all of you. Strangled with a knife. Or with a scarf. Then stabbed with a knife. The button had to be pulled off after he was dead and then planted on Matt. And if you want to be snide about it, then be snide at this. This is the victim's autopsy report. It clearly states the cause of death was strangulation by a scarf. Strangulation? The knife stab to the victim was done after the victim had already died.
What does that mean?
Let's examine the evidence. This button has the victim's blood on it, which would mean it was ripped off of the costume when?
After the knife was stabbed into the victim.
Yes, which means it is impossible this button was torn off during the victim's final struggle, because the victim was strangled to death in that fight.
That's right, Miss Andrews. There is no way this button was ripped off during the struggle. This button was consciously pulled off the victim's already dead body. Odor! What is the meaning? What is the meaning of this, Wright? So what if if the button was torn off the body after the victim had already died? What does that change? Let me ask you one simple question, Mr. Edgeworth. Why was the button torn off? What purpose did that serve? What purpose? We now know this button was not torn off during the fight, so the murderer took the time and effort to purposefully rip this from the victim's body. That would mean the murderer had something in mind, wouldn't it? Mr. Wright, does this mean you know what the murderer wanted to do with the button? What was it? There is only one logical reason for doing something like that. It was to pin the crime on Mr. Ongard. There is no way anyone would put a bloodied button in their own pants. That's right. Mr. Ongard was set up. By the real killer, of course. And the real murder is? Well, Mr. Wright, who in the world is the real killer? Finally. I can't believe I managed to bring this trial all the way to this point. Phoenix, you can't let your guard down yet. Not until the very end. The real killer, the person who planned to frame Matt Ongard is...
I mean, it's gotta be Andrews. I don't want it to be Andrews. If it's none of those, it's not Miles. Hi, Miles. It's not Will. It's not Lotta. It's not Juan. It's not Matt. It's not Oldbag. Celeste is dead. Adrian is the only face we have left. And she had means and motive and opportunity. I don't like it, but she's the most logical choice. Miss Adrian Andrews, I choose you. You are Mr. Korea's killer. It's like a Pokemon. I choose you! What? Her glasses broke again. But we didn't get to see her put new ones on.
Order, Mr. Wright! This is a very grave matter. Do you have any evidence that supports your charge?
Any evidence?
All of the evidence points to Miss Andrews.
How preposterous! You can't stick any of that on me!
Well, I can't, can I? Would you care to test me?
What about this knife?
The knife was used to stab the victim after he had already been strangled to death. It was used to throw suspicion onto Mr. Ongard, naturally. A knife covered in the defendant's fingerprints could only be taken from his room, and the only one who had dinner with him and knew which knife to take was you.
Ah!
There we go.
Then, what about the button that was found in Matt's Hakama?
This button was removed from the victim's body after he had already died. The only people who could have done so were the person who found his body or the killer. However, if Mr. Ongard was the real killer, there is no way he would have put such incriminating evidence in his own Hakama.
Ah!
The only person who could have put this button into Mr. Ongard's Hakama is the person who went to wake him from his nap, which is you, yet again, Miss Andrews. I see. What about the empty guitar case? That is also another piece of evidence that incriminates Miss Andrews. The costume was used to hide the real killer's identity as they fled the crime scene. God, she's so pretty. Who could have known that there was just such a costume inside the guitar case? It could only have been the person who prepared the costume for the victim. That person is you, Miss Adrian Andrews.
No,
But Miss Andrews' fingerprints were nowhere to be found on the guitar case. It was you who proved she was not wearing gloves at the time.
That's right! That's because she did not intend on leaving any prints. If anyone had found out that she had touched the case, they would have asked her why. To avoid leaving prints, she used a towel or something else to open it. But the glass of tomato juice is a different story. Miss Andrews purposefully left her fingerprints on the glass to show that, yes, indeed, she was the classic dazed discoverer of a dead body. Ah! And to top it all off, there is this photo. A photo of the killer as they exited the scene of the crime. No reasonable person on Earth can believe this nickel samurai is Mr. Engard. He would be much too short for his own costume if it was him. Speaking of how tall people are, Miss Andrews, you're also kind of short in stature, are you not? Please, stop. She's really not. When they do the cutaway to show the entire courtroom scene, I think she's the tallest person in the room. Maybe it's a perspective thing. How about it, Miss Andrews? I've got her this time.
Miss Andrews?
I refuse to testify.
What was that?
There's a law. It says I can't be forced to testify about something if it can incriminate me.
See, she's just as tall as Kathy.
Well, yes. You are absolutely correct, Miss Andrews.
Do they have that in Japan too? She's claiming the American fifth. She's pleading the fifth.
Why? What is she? I still don't think she's the murderer. So she was an accomplice. Maybe? Was she an accomplice after the fact or before? She came to the room with the knife. So if she's an accomplice, she would have known she was going to get a dead body. She was going to find a dead body. Somebody paid her, blackmailed her, convinced her to frame Matt for the murder of Juan Carita.
The law does provide us with a way to avoid self-incrimination by allowing the witness to not testify if the testimony can cause damage to themselves.
What? Pleading the fifth is not something most people would think to do on the spot. Actually, thinking back to yesterday in Mr. Engard's room. Adrian Andrews.
Yes?
Think hard about what we just discussed. Understood?
All right.
So you think Franziska poised her to plead the fifth? But why would Franziska? I mean, just to bolster her own case? I guess that's possible. I was assuming that Franziska was inviting her out to eat dinner, possibly to marry her. My shipping heart. It's too gay for this. Okay, on we go. That's when Franziska planted this idea into her head. She must have told Ms. Andrews not to testify if things looked bad. You did a good job proving everything up to this point, but there is still one thing you haven't done. Something I haven't done? Why are you laughing, Edgeworth?
What's wrong, Wright? Are you finished already? Run out of evidence?
I mean, I proved that she's just as likely to be the killer as my client. And she's refusing to say that she didn't. So I feel like we can call him not guilty and go? Like, is that really the way to get out of a murder rap? Is if you just don't confess to it, then, well, it must still be Mr. Ongar, because we arrested him first, and it's such a nuisance to change things now. What is so humorous, Mr. Edgeworth? I'm sure you realize this as well, Your Honor. But everything the good lawyer here has proven up to this point is meaningless. What? Everything you have proven is circumstantial. I'm pretty sure the picture isn't circumstantial? Circumstantial. Yes, circumstantial. You have yet to provide a single piece of definitive proof. Proof that Miss Andrews did in fact harbor a wish to murder Mr. Kurita. Really? Are you gonna force us to bring out the evidence that you gave us? That's cruel. I guess if we have to. Miss Andrews, did you want to kill Mr. Kurita?
I believe this may lead to me incriminating myself, so I will abstain from answering.
Miss Andrews, if you do that, it would be the same as admitting your guilt, don't you think?
Maybe so, or maybe not. There is nothing to prove it either way. Besides, you don't even know what crime I would be guilty of due to my silence. She's taking that defiant attitude again. Mia, what should we do? Somehow we've landed in the worst possible situation.
No, I'm pretty sure we're doing better than we were. I think we have reached a certain conclusion at this point in time. Miss Adrian Andrews has refused to testify, and the defense's theory that she is the actual murderer has not been fully substantiated with solid definitive proof. That's not true! In this situation, there is only one thing this court can do, and that is to declare a recess.
Recess!
I request that both the prosecution and the defense look further into this matter, and at tomorrow's trial... Tomorrow. We don't have it tomorrow. If we don't get a not guilty verdict today, then...
Please wait, Your Honor. That's not necessary. The trial. Please continue the trial.
What are you sweating for? Your client is getting one more day to live, isn't he?
That's not it. This isn't about that. Edgeworth, I know you know who the real killer is. Please, let the trial continue. If I don't get the verdict, then Maya... He doesn't know.
Oh, I was so sure he knew.
He doesn't know.
It's impossible to continue as long as the witness refuses to testify. This court is...
Objection!
Thank you. Thank you. He figured it out. I honestly thought he already knew, but he figured it out.
And that's something. It is not impossible for this trial to continue. Mr. Edgeworth? What are you... It's true, Ms. Andrews holds the right against self-incrimination. However, if the topic of conversation were something unrelated to whatever she may be guilty of, then she has no right to withhold testimony. Yes, that is very true. There is one little thing I'm curious about, Miss Andrews. When you found the victim's dead body, you poured yourself a glass of juice.
Yes, and?
And I can't help but think how unnatural that is. Usually when one finds a body, they are shaken up, not stirring a glass of juice. nice Bond reference there.
So my actions were unusual? But I've already...
Before you speak, I want to state that if you have a reason behind your actions, I would like you to testify to that effect.
Testify.
Your Honor, I would like to request the witness testify again as to what happened when she first discovered the victim's body. Whatever we find out in this testimony should in no way implicate the witness.
I don't know what it is about Edgeworth today, but I can't get a good read off of him. Is he friend or foe? I don't know. He's helping now. He didn't know about Maya before, but he's helping now.
The court acknowledges the prosecution's request. Miss Andrews, if you please.
You do anything the prosecution asks you. It's kind of upsetting.
That glass of juice, I didn't really pour it for myself. I was surprised when I walked into the room and I saw it in that messy state. And Juan, he was sitting slumped over and tired looking in the corner. When I saw him sitting like that, the thought that he was dead didn't cross my mind. To be honest, I thought he had fainted or something. I went to pour him some juice. When I realized that he was dead, that's when I knocked the flower vase over.
You poured that glass of juice for the victim. Why didn't you say so in your earlier testimony?
I didn't think I needed to include something so trivial. Phoenix, please be careful here. If you can't find anything wrong with this testimony, then there's nothing left. Edgeworth, what is going on in that brain of yours?
Now then, Mr. Wright, you may begin your cross-examination.
I didn't really pour it for myself. I was surprised when I walked into the room and saw it in that messy state, with the cosmetics on the floor. Juan was sitting slumped over and tired looking on the chair. The thought that he was dead didn't cross my mind. I didn't think he was dead until... Where is it? The guitar case was closed. The vase was on the dresser. There was cosmetics on the floor. He was sitting in his chair.
And supposedly he had a knife in his chest. But you didn't think he was dead. You thought he'd fainted.
Got you now.
Objection!
Got you now. You honestly didn't think he was dead when you found him? No, not at all.
Even though this is what you saw when you discovered the body.
What is the meaning of this?
Isn't it obvious, Your Honor? There is a knife sticking straight out of Mr. Kurita's chest. Anyone who saw this scene would have immediately thought that here was a dead man. Well, you see... I doubt a single person in the world would mistake this for someone who fainted. And then so nonchalantly go pour something to drink?
Your point is?
Miss Andrews, your testimony just now, it was all one giant lie.
Your lie has proven one thing very clearly. That you are the real killer.
No, I think it proves that she set what's his face up to be framed. That's what she's wanting not to testify about. No!
It looks like the defense has somehow brought the ugly truth to light. The defendant, Mr. Matt Ongard, is not guilty after all.
That's impossible. You're wrong.
Miss Andrews, Try to have some composure.
She must think that he killed her mentor. Because why else would she do this? It wasn't me. It wasn't me, I tell you. It was Matt, I swear it. He's the one who killed Juan.
But you were the one who refused to testify, and your reason for not doing so was that you might end up incriminating yourself.
That's because...
Miss Andrews, I will give you one last chance. What exactly are you hiding that may incriminate you?
I refuse to testify.
Then there is no need for this court to continue any further. Mr. Matt Onguard's innocence has been clearly demonstrated.
Yes! Is it over? Have we found the truth at last? What's wrong, Phoenix? Usually the real killer confesses his or her guilt. And now that I think about it, this is the first time someone hasn't.
Now then, I would like to hand down my verdict for Mr. Matt Onguard.
Yeah, I don't think she did it. I think someone else did it, but... let's just get Maya back.
Your Honor, the prosecution feels that it would be premature to pass down a verdict at this time. What? The reason is quite simple. This witness has yet to speak the absolute real truth. The absolute real truth? What are you... Witness, don't you understand yet?
Huh?
I don't know who planted this silly idea in your head. But as long as you protect yourself through your silence, Matt Onguard will go free. In his place, you will become the guilty party.
That's a lie. I don't believe you.
What?
I was told if I spoke, then it would be all over, and Matt would never be declared guilty. What? What in the world is she talking about? Has she lost it? I can't speak about it. I'm too scared. It's Francisco von Karma. Huh? Don't you remember, Phoenix? Miss Andrews lives by gripping tightly onto the words of another, because she doesn't have the strength to believe in herself. Then, right now, Miss Andrews is... Yesterday she was tossed a lifesaver by Ms. Von Karma. Don't say a word, no matter what happens. If you do, Matt Onguard will be acquitted.
Okay, so we all agree that Franziska von Karma is a dirty lawyer, right? If she genuinely believed Matt would be acquitted if the witness told the truth, and so she told the witness not to tell the truth, then that's not right. We agree about that, right?
Miss Andrews undyingly believes in those words right now and is clinging onto them.
Then what should we do?
This is the first time I've come across something like this. Miss Andrews has to be the killer, right? All we have to do now is get our not guilty. That is my priority. It wasn't me. I'm begging you, please believe me. I didn't kill Juan. Help, please. Someone help me.
Mr. Wright.
Yes, Your Honor.
The court can't continue on like this. Therefore, I'd like to hear what you intend to do.
What I intend to do? What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to say?
Right. I suggest you think very carefully about this. Think about what this witness did and what she did not do. and think about who is the real mastermind behind this crime.
Who's the real mastermind? Isn't that obvious? There's no one else it could be except the woman crying over there, right?
Come now. What will you do? What kind of man are you, Mr. Phoenix Wright?
Edgeworth knows that Maya is in danger. He knows what's at stake. But he also doesn't believe that Miss Andrews is the killer. I know that Maya is in danger, and I don't believe that Miss Andrews is the killer. In a proper system, I would press for a not guilty verdict for Matt, suggest that the police take their time thoroughly investigating Miss Andrews to find out the truth, and go get Maya. But this isn't a proper system, it's a dystopia where somebody has to be guilty today. If we press for the not guilty verdict, then we're going to send an innocent woman to prison. And Edgeworth would be disappointed in us. If we... Can we get them both off, Matt and Andrews, and get Maya saved? Try to shoot for the moon? Alright, Edgeworth, but you better help me. My God. I have to win a complete acquittal today. There's no way around that. But I can't bring myself to do it like this. Not when she's making that face.
Miss Andrews, I would like to know what you are really hiding.
Mr. Wright, are you sure you know what you're doing?
Sure, Mr. On Guard would get an acquittal, but in his place, you would be found guilty. Is this how you really want this trial to end?
Be quiet. How dare you? You're trying to trick me.
That's enough. I commend you for trying, Mr. Edgeworth. However, it's clear that the defense's theory is the truth.
You're wrong.
What a shame. I had hoped things wouldn't come to this. However, what is this, Mr. Edgeworth? Miss Andrews, since you absolutely refuse to testify, it falls on my shoulders to disclose this to the court.
Stop!
Mr. Edgeworth? This witness. How should I put this? She has an illness. Oh no.
God, don't look as bad as I'm afraid it's gonna be. What?
Because of this illness, she has tried to commit suicide in the past.
Stop! Please stop!
No matter how much you want to hide it, it's no use. I have the evidence right here.
That's
the second part of the suicide report. The attempted suicide report. What will you do now, witness? You know what I'm about to do, don't you? I will now reveal to the court the true nature of the pitiful woman known as Adriana Andrews. The secret of her dependent nature. Having other people know about it scares her more than anything else in the world.
Please stop, I beg you. If people find out, I'll...
If you're going to say you would choose death, that is of no concern to me.
Edgeworth, how can you be so cold?
However, before you die, I will pull the truth from your still breathing lips.
no matter what I have to do. So will you tell the court yourself, or shall I? Either is fine with me.
I feel like at this point the judge would be like, or should be like, if none of this is relevant to the case and you're just blackmailing her into incriminating herself and not waiving the fifth anymore, then we're done now. Thank you. Like, fuck.
I'll talk, but please help me. Nothing matters anymore.
I'm not comfortable with how any of that went at all. Very uncomfortable.
When I first saw him, I really thought he had fainted. Honest. When I realized he was dead, that was when I formulated my plan. Once I made sure there was no one in the hallway, I made a dash back to Matt's room. And then I stabbed Juan's dead body with the knife and ripped off the button. Just when I finished and was returning to Matt's room, I had a bit of an inconvenience, and that's why I ended up using the nickel samurai costume.
Stabbed the body with the knife? Why would you do that?
Isn't it obvious? To pin the blame on a certain person. A certain cowardly man.
What do you mean by all of this? It might take this court a little while to understand, but this is the truth.
The real killer is Matt. That scumbag of a man. I'll never forgive him. He's trying to escape his guilt again, just like last time.
Last time, Miss Andrews stabbed the victim, Juan Carita, in the chest with a knife. However, she didn't do it with murder in mind. She did it with the intent of framing Matt Engard for the murder. And this is her crime.
What? How is this possible? Wasn't Miss Andrews supposed to be the real murderer?
Mr. Wright, please get over your shock and commence the cross-examination.
Alright. I believe her. I just think that Matt should be declared not guilty and we go back to the drawing board to figure out who is.
You could tell from the state the room was in. There must have been a fight. Are you telling the truth when you say you did not know he was dead? He had a scarf tied around his neck. That scarf is part of the Jammin' Ninja's costume, so I didn't think anything about it was strange. His head was tilted down a bit, so I couldn't see his face that well. That's why I thought I'd wake him up and went to pour the juice. What is this plan you had? I knew right away the murderer was Matt. I knew because Juan, he was going to expose Matt's weakest weak point to the world. Weakest weak point? So Matt did this to stop Juan and silence him for good. That's when I thought, I should forge some evidence and pin this crime on Matt.
The forged pieces of evidence were the knife and the button.
The first thing that came to mind was to plant the knife.
That was so you could get the knife, correct?
The knife Matt used at dinner had his fingerprints all over it. I thought if I used that, the police would turn their eyes toward him. Matt was nappy with his costume on at the time. I slipped in, took the knife, and returned to the scene of the crime. And then I stabbed Juan's dead body with the knife.
You were the one to stab the victim with the knife.
It gives me goosebumps to think about it now. What a horrible thing I did. But at the time, I couldn't control my own body. It moved on its own. Then when I stabbed Juan's dead body, I suddenly realized something. If I used the button somehow, I could make Matt look even more suspect.
You thought to rip one of the buttons off and plant it in Mr. Engard's hakama. Yes, that's what I had planned to do. But things never go that smoothly, do they? Just when I finished, I had a bit of inconvenience. An inconvenience? There was a woman with a camera at the ready, loitering in the hallway.
I'm willing to bet my spikes it was Lotta.
There was also a woman with a ray gun at the ready, pacing back and forth.
That's old bag.
I had already been caught and made into a big scoop for a certain weekly tabloid once, so I couldn't very well go out looking like myself and get caught again.
You were the one who prepared the costume, weren't you?
Yes, I took it from Global Studios. I put it into Juan's guitar case the day before the award ceremony.
You did this in preparation for the press conference, correct?
Yes, Juan wanted to wear that costume and hold a press conference in it. He was going to disclose Matt's big secret there.
What is the secret?
That I don't know. I thought that if I were to leave Juan's room in the Nickel Samurai costume, people would think that Matt was the real murderer. I was very careful not to leave any fingerprints when I opened the guitar case. I did not want anyone to know about the costume.
I think we've heard enough. After that, you went back to Mr. Onguard's room and planted the button.
Into Matt's Hakama? Yes. After that, I folded up the costume I was wearing and put it into a bag. I snuck it out of the hotel and got rid of it.
My word! What does this all mean?
Mr. Edgeworth, is it? The real criminal is Matt Onguard. Yesterday, that woman prosecutor sat me down for a talk.
Francisca.
She said that I should, under no circumstances, confess to what I had done. If I just kept quiet, Matt would be found guilty for sure. I had no choice but to believe in her words.
Nobody cares about that at all? No reaction? Nothing? What this witness has done is clearly unlawful. However, as long as her testimony stands, we can be certain she is not the real killer. Wait, Your Honor. The defense still... Right. It's pointless. At this point in time, it is not possible to indict Miss Andrews on anything. Yes, exactly. There isn't a single piece of evidence that points to her as the murderer. The cross-examination of this witness is over, and so is today's trial. You could not establish the witness was the culprit. Let it go, Mr. Wright.
I don't need her to be a culprit. You just need to declare innocent the man who was framed.
Mr. Edgeworth, please place Miss Andrews under arrest for further questioning. Understood, Your Honor. The prosecution will arrange for her detention immediately. That is all. Court is adjourned for today.
Well, it was nice knowing Maya. Shit. Shit. Today's trial. It's over. And I didn't win an acquittal.
Witness, would you mind if I asked you something?
Edgeworth? What is it?
Before you leave court today, I wondered if I might look at one thing. The card in your hand. It's had my interest for quite some time now. What exactly is it?
Oh, this? Mr. Wright also asked about this. Although I didn't remember at the time you asked me about it, Mr. Wright. I remember just now. I found this in the room on that day.
The room? That day?
Yes. I found this card when I discovered one's body. It was lying right next to him.
You found that card next to the victim's body?
I suppose I must have unconsciously slipped it into my pocket. But it's not as if this card has any relevance to Juan's murder, right?
I guess not. It's still a strange card if you ask me. As far as a clue to this case, I don't see. Witness that card. Give it to me. Hurry. Edgeworth? Do you have any idea what you was stupidly, inadvertently done? This. Can't believe you hid this from me all this time.
I didn't mean to. What is this about?
Well, I've never seen Edgeworth so emotional before. A card. What in the world is it? And what does it mean? Well, hopefully Maya won't be killed. I'm not sure. But I am very grateful that Edgeworth seems to be caring about getting to the truth and about saving Maya, although it feels like he could have pressed for an innocent verdict. Even if I don't understand why we can't have a not guilty if we don't have somebody else. Like, that part is just really baffling to me. So that's fun, I guess. Anyway, so that was very emotional and rough, and I need to actually record some trigger warnings for the beginning of all these videos that I haven't yet posted, because I don't even know where to start for that. So I'm going to do that, and I append them to all the thingies, and when we come back, we will do the next bit of the game. I honestly have no idea what's going to happen. I really don't. Hopefully Maya's okay. So once again, this has been Phoenix Wright. My name is Anna Mardal, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.